Welcome to Body Bags, presented by the Kokomo Lantern. I'm Jeremy Geiger, one of the co-owners, and my co-host today is Kimberly Rose, the other co-owner of the funeral home. Today we want to talk to you about personalization, how it's done, and different ideas. That way, when you experience a loss in your family, that maybe you can explore these ideas a little more so you can make your service a little bit more special and memorable for you. It's something that's been really big in the funeral industry, really since I've come into the industry in the early 2000s, you know, when Batesville really started pushing different features on the caskets. You know, they started adding picture panels.
Corners.
The corners was huge. They were really big on the corners, and boy, did they have a ton of different options for farming, fishing, sewing, cooking, religious ones.
Families loved it. Sports
memorabilia ones. It was a really neat idea. We don't see a whole lot of it anymore. Occasionally I see in our Facebook groups.
They still want the hummingbird.
The hummingbird that they quit making a long time ago. But yeah, the funeral home's asking for, anybody have the hummingbird?
One.
Or does anybody have the lighthouse that they used to make? Neat ideas. It just is a bummer that it didn't really kind of stick. Same with like the shelving that they tried incorporating inside the casket. Remember on the foot cap end where they would have the little corner shelf, and then they had the memory drawer that came out.
I love the memory drawer.
The memory drawer was a neat feature. I liked it when families wanted to leave personal notes and keepsakes.
I would always encourage that when a family would get that casket.
Absolutely, because it's nice to know that it's there with them, but maybe not out for everybody else to see that, why did you give them their birthday card like they're going to be dead? Well, I already bought it and I wanted to give it to Grandpa.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to send it with them. Other neat things that we can do with that personalization would be things on the memorial side, the printed goods that we offer.
Yeah.
We can customize the inside of the register books. Here at City of First, we only offer one and one only book. I personally like it. I know Kim would like to have a few more other options, but I like it because it's simple and we're not looking at 13, 14 different outside printed themes. The personalization's on the inside what we do. We incorporate poems. We incorporate lots of pictures the families provide. We've done things where we've scanned notes and letters that they've written and had that included on the register books for them. When we look at like maybe the memorial folders, we're creating collages. We're not using maybe religious poems like we used to a lot.
Not a lot of stock stuff. It's more
custom things that people have found on the internet, whether it's Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Google searches, things that were memorable quotes to them or things that we're using. Same with the imagery that we're asking for. We've got lots of stock images, but we feel that it's way more important to the family and it's a better keepsake when we ask them for a picture that we can use as that background banner. That way they know Dad took that when he was out in Milwaukee trout fishing or steelhead fishing, and it was his best day out there. He caught the record fish, whatever it may be. Nobody else is really going to realize that,
but the family
family does. And if it's that important to them, you know what they're going to do? They're going to be standing up there greeting you, and they're going to go, hey, did you see that memorial folder? This is when Dad was up in Milwaukee and he caught, and you're going to go, no shit, that's awesome. Like,
or I remember I was there with them that day.
I was the one that was taking that picture. You never know what it may be. It's something neat like that we feel is important that the funeral home should ask. If you're dealing with a funeral home and they're not asking, be the advocate. Go, hey, I've got a picture. Can we use these pictures instead of that stock cabin in the woods with the little stream going through? Nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful. I like the painting, but it's just maybe not them all the way.
Yeah.
Other things that we're doing with our printed goods, it's something that Kim and I had this conversation the other day. We've done this. We've built lots of memorial folders, registered books, bookmarks. We've done church programs. We've done lots and lots of things, whether it's us just creating it and then handing it off to somebody else to build, or talking to that person who's building it for us and then they're bringing us the proof. But Kim came out with a great idea, and I have no idea how we've missed this one for so stinking long. It's the fingerprint. We record everybody's fingerprint. Most funeral homes do. But we're including that on the family's personal bookmarks now. Are you kidding me? How did we miss that? These families, and we don't even tell them because the bookmarks we showed them don't have that fingerprint on there. And then when they come to the church for their memorial service or funeral service, or if it's the cremation and they're showing up to pick up the urn and we're giving them their bookmarks, every one of these families that I've handed it to since we've started doing that,
They love it.
they are completely caught off guard. They're gasping. They are almost in tears. It's that's important to that personalization. Nobody had to ask him, hey, can you put that fingerprint on there? It was something she just thought of it, like designing it. What would that look like? And the first time I seen it, I didn't say anything. I kind of thought it was a family request, honestly, because sometimes people can't afford that fingerprint jewelry. It's expensive. And we have local options that are more affordable, but sometimes $25 is a lot to a person.
At that time.
Yeah, they can't afford that. So to give them a bookmark that was included in that cremation that has that fingerprint, over the top happy. Like,
one family, he said, is this just a stock fingerprint? And I said, no. So I showed him two that I was working on. I said, this is this guy's fingerprint. This is your brother's fingerprint. And he was like, oh, wow, that's so cool.
It is. Because the fingerprints we get to record, we all know it. Every fingerprint is unique and different of its own. Some are more vibrant in the ridges and valleys. Others are more of what I call like smudges. You can see real faint lines, but there's not much there. Those tend to be the ladies that cook and clean or work a lot with their hands and wear those fingerprints off. It does happen over time. Ouch. So those are kind of some neat things on the printed side with personalization. There are things like memorial candles that they're printing pictures and things on that's starting to become popular. I've talked to some people that are doing the personalized candles on how it works for them. Nobody's really a big fan of it as far as I understand. It's kind of a headache with the software and the paper. And
I don't really like it. I like the way we do our candles.
Our ceremonial candles. Yeah. That's another great personalization feature that we've incorporated.
Our families like it.
So we do a ceremonial candle that if they choose to be a part of the cremation process, or they elect to have just the candle, Kim and I will take care of that. But when we start a cremation for a deceased, we light this candle, we record the time. That candle burns through the whole cremation process. Once it's ended, we blow the candle out, record the ending time, and then we take it to Kokomo opalescent glass, and we have some information sandblasted onto the candle. But what we're finding is it's so beneficial to these families that when they're missing this person, or it's their birthday, or it's an anniversary, the death date, a Memorial Day, whatever it may be that strikes you.
Yeah, maybe they're just missing them that day.
Right. They can go over to that candle.
Maybe they want to make a prayer that day.
And they light that candle and they get to remember them again. It's just, it's a really neat, personalized feature that we're offering. It's a little bit different. It's something that the families are just really liking the thought of. We've had a couple of families that don't do well with smells. They still wanted the candle burnt, but they have no intentions of burning the candle. They said if they did, they would probably have to take it outside because of the asthma that they have. They couldn't do it inside, but they still loved the idea.
Yeah, just of having it and having it sandblasted and just as a memorial candle.
So we kind of talked about personalizing a casket and the printed goods. Outside of that, we're talking things at the celebration of life or the funeral service. I've always been, and I know Kim's pretty involved with this thought process as well. I think it's always important to give your guests something to remember. It's a keepsake to go with them. A lot of times, like ball golfers will see like golf tees that may be printed or golf balls printed and given out. We've done things like we've done ribbons that had the person's picture, like a button, lapel button. We've done some really neat things.
I've done some sewing kits.
What other crazy ideas have you had on personalizing?
I've done golf balls. I did a whole golf setup.
A little like putting green and everything.
Yeah, that was really cool. I've done a wrestling ticket.
Yeah, you had the TVs all showing old wrestling.
That was cool.
WrestleManias.
The Speedway thing was really cool. I set up a nice little like Speedway race thing. That was
it like a little race track, or was it more like checkered flags?
Checkered flags. Had a bunch of set up stuff.
Was it more like Indy 500 fan? Is that what the person was, since we're in Indiana?
We had that. We had Kokomo Speedway stuff.
Yeah.
I made a ticket for that. Oh, the really neat one was Monsters University for a girl. That one was really...
pretty cool.
Yeah, that was really special. That one was really good.
So these personalization ideas, it's really maybe a funeral director listening how much they liked Monsters, Inc. Or when they're picking out maybe the printing and they're talking about, hey, can we use the Monsters University cover, DVD cover? Those are things that you're picking up on and going, well, yeah, we can definitely do that as the printing. Are you hot?
Yeah.
I think you'll survive. Picking up on the printing that, oh, let's get some Monsters, Inc. posters and maybe hang out. I've got the video. Let's put the video on the TV.
We brought the door. I painted the door.
I painted a door for them. Those are some neat things that you're running with. Did you go to the family and say, hey, I've got these great ideas. Can we do these things? Or was it more of like, hey, I've got these great ideas and I'm just going to run with it and they're going to love it, and they walk in and they were...
It was more of a surprise for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we're meeting these families, we can tell that they've got a lot of faith and trust in us, and we don't necessarily need permission. When we have those other families where it's kind of like, ooh, I really want to do this and I've got to go and talk to them just to make sure
to say, hey, is this okay?
They're okay. And if it's not okay, we can take it down. You know, it's nothing permanent. Yeah, I think it's really cool when we do get that freedom to kind of personalize.
Well, one way I did, I had a bunch of palm trees brought in. That one was really cool.
Did like a beach theme to it.
And I had a background of like 4 pictures of beach theme in the back. That looked really awesome.
Yeah, I remember hanging those beach pictures. That was not awesome. The center one's not high enough. The left one's on an angle. It was a fun day, though. We had a good time. And we always enjoy doing that. And it's a great reward for us because it's not our normal. We love, at least Kim and I, we love to maybe be outside of that normal, traditional feel of the funeral. Don't get us wrong. We like the normalcy of a funeral when we know this preacher's going to speak for 25 minutes and he's going to have a 1.5-minute closing prayer. And then he's sitting down and we're dismissing. We like the structure to that as well. But we also like the personalization. We like when families want to share some really interesting stories that may not be what you would think be shared. I've heard a lot of funny stories of people either getting drunk and falling down, making a silly mess of themselves, or I've heard some funny stories of like, I had one family that they were always into trying to catch mom going to the bathroom.
Oh, God.
And they had this whole photo album of pictures of surprising her in the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
And it was hilarious. And it was never just like oh, hey, you're in here? No, there was always something involved. Like, they came in and they would throw a water balloon at her while she's trying to go to the bathroom, or shoot her with the Nerf gun, or throw slime on her. It was always hilarious. And those are neat memories to keep alive and share. And it's funny because this person wouldn't have been somebody you probably would expect to have such a good light heart on some of these jokes and pranks that were pulled towards them. So that's kind of personalizing the feel of the funeral room and stuff. Things to personalize that service, though, is having maybe special music. Whether that music is religious or not. Sometimes I feel that maybe the music, depending on the setting of where you're doing this ceremony, may or may not be appropriate. But I think if it's done tastefully, it could be done appropriately. It doesn't have to be the prominent song that's played while everybody's silent sitting in a chair. That song it will be shuffled into the mix
While people are mingling.
Yeah, before the funeral starts, where they're mingling, or when we're dismissing and then people are getting up and kind of talking. I always like to see that families have maybe a representative, whether it's a person that's a friend. The funeral we recently went to for you, I thought it was really neat that they had 2 or 3 individuals that represented his friends as a whole. I like that better than maybe, does anybody have anything they'd like to say about this deceased today?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work really well sometimes. People feel pressured. But if you've got
it disrupts the structure of the service too.
Yeah, if you've got somebody that's maybe prepared to have that conversation of, this is what my friend meant to me, this is what my friend did for us, and why we cared for them. And then it may lead into other people wanting to kind of talk. The other thing that I think's neat that we've seen in funeral services and how it's changed is the service itself. We're seeing a lot of videos, we're seeing a lot of different music, but we're seeing people talk differently and memorialize different than we have in the past. It's not necessarily reading scriptures and prayers that we were really accustomed to. It's more of a life story of telling us of what this person was and mean to the community and their family. And I think it's pretty cool to see those changes. I know that it's definitely needed and important for the grieving process, not just for the family, but those friends that are around that just lost their buddy. So, yeah, don't feel afraid to tell your eulogist. And your eulogist could be a minister, it could be a certified celebrant, which is something that's kind of a newer term. They're not a minister, they're more of a spokesperson of positive things of the deceased.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the celebrant kind of aspect of the service, but it's just changed so much on that, and I think it's helping some of these families get through the grief. Are there any other things that you could think of in personalizing a ceremony, a casket? You know, there's vinyl graphics that people are putting on caskets. There's engraving that's being done on caskets.
You can always embroider.
Well, the cap panels, yeah, we didn't talk about those. When the casket lid is opened and you're seeing the deceased's.
The throw.
Yep, where it lays over the foot end of the casket, that can be personalized and embroidered. That panel or lid that's open. I talked about photo collage panels in there. Sometimes they're putting graphics or embroidery inside that casket as well. But those are some neat ideas for personalization. Really, any kind of
I like to
idea.
personalize the flowers.
The flowers, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You have done pretty neat things with the flowers, working with your florists, telling them to incorporate fishing rods or particular.
I did my
toys.
grandpa's flowers. I made his own spray.
What things did you incorporate into that?
Tractors, bridges, just wild, organic flowers, lots of greenery.
Were you trying to stay like
Woodsy.
local Indiana flowers, or were you
just more woodsy, wild.
Okay.
Since they lived in the woods. And
Definitely personalizing the flowers, I think is important because it's such a prominent feature when you walk in from the back of the room to the front. You may or may not be able to see the deceased in the casket very well, but definitely that flower arrangement's there. It's prominent. It's something that catches your eye.
well, then my uncle, he said, Kim, can we put a toothpick in his mouth? And I was like, yes.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Somebody who
Because we
always
had his toothpick cup at the register book.
Yeah.
And he was like, can we put one in his mouth? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. So we did. We just stuck it right in there.
Crazy.
So that was perfect.
So
And then I had lottery tickets there for my grandma.
scratched or unscratched?
Well, Grandma put one unscratched in Grandpa's pocket.
Oh dear,
But
there's
then-
the $1 million
I know.
winner.
But then I had one for each one of my uncles and my dad and Grandma to scratch right there. So that
Please
was
tell me.
personalization.
Please tell me you each went up to the casket right on the foot end and scratched that sucker like you were sitting at the table with him.
Right there on the head end.
Heck yeah.
Right with them.
I absolutely
And then she
love
put
it.
it right in his pocket with them. It was fun.
It was. It sounds like a good time. So those are the important things about personalizing it. It brings a better connection for you on saying that final goodbye. And these goodbyes are not permanent, they're temporary. We'll all be on that other side at some point. But so that's going to kind of be some of the thoughts that we're going to leave you with as time goes on and you're questioning, is this something that may be doable for my funeral service? Call your funeral home that you're wanting to utilize. Say, hey, I've got this crazy question. We get that phone call every day. Seems like the last 3 weeks for me, every day, at least one phone call I'm getting is, hey, I have a really crazy question for you. You know what? They're really not that crazy. You're not the first one asking.
It's not stupid.
It's not stupid. It's a great idea. If you can express what you're wanting to us, we're going to try to figure out a way to make it happen and pull it together for you, because we always want to try to make that happen and make it a memorable moment for you.
Yeah. So
I'm going to leave you with one of my stories of personalization experiences. So we had a gentleman who passed away, and he built his own casket. It was a rather interesting casket. He also was a bowler. So they brought the casket to us the day after we made arrangements. You could definitely tell it was homemade. But was not near the quality of the caskets that I had to offer, but I get it. Like, the man put hours and dedication into this casket. That's what we're going to use. I get it opened. He used like a cedar chest latch on the front. Not what we're used to. We're either used to little push button hinges that pop and let us in, or the lid just opens up. So undid the hooks and the little flap, pulled it up, opened it up, and this casket had bright red cotton interior with bowling balls and bowling pins in there. The gentleman was a huge bowling fan. Okay.
So it was heavy.
Oh, the casket was heavier than any of the other caskets that we had to offer. It was so heavy. There was no padding in the bottom of the casket, so I got padding and put in there and tried making it look as nice as I could. And they brought in some really neat things. They had a ring from when he bowled a 300. They had a bowling pin that was signed by his team when they won a tournament, and a couple of his bowling shirts, and his bag and shoes were there. It was pretty cool, some of these things. And then the kids come in, and the outside dimensions of the casket were very similar to a normal casket. The inside dimensions were not quite the same. It was a little more tighter than what we were used to deal with. The individual was thankfully not a big person, and they come in though, and they had a 13-pound bowling ball. I said, oh, another bowling ball to display. Okay, so I'll put it over here with these other ones. And they said, oh no. That's got to be in there with Dad. And they wanted it like in his hand, like he was like holding it. They're way too late past that one. There's no way I could do any of that. I couldn't put it in the casket spray. I mean, it's a 13-pound bowling ball. It's trying to roll out of there. And they were very adamant that I had to go in there with him. And they like just put it on his chest as an embalmer. I'm going, absolutely not. Like, we're going to have a problem later. There's going to be some purge eventually because of the pressure of that bowling ball. So I kind of lifted his arm up and have him kind of hugging the ball on the left side, and I hoped and prayed for a day and a half that this gentleman would not purge or anything. He did not purge. It all went well. The funeral was good. And family we dismiss everybody, bring family up to say their final goodbyes, and I go to take the bowling ball out, and they said, "What are you doing with the ball?" So, "I figure you guys want to keep it. I'm going to put it over here with the rest of them." Oh no, I think you forgot when I said how important this bowling ball is that it's with Dad. So they wanted it still in his arm to be buried with him. That casket didn't have an adjustable bed to lower it down, so there was no way to do that. I had to show him that, like, it just doesn't work. I'm crunching him. So I put the ball down at the foot end of the casket between his legs so it wouldn't be rolling around, and boy, did I see those pallbearers struggle an awful lot because it was a super heavy casket, and then we added 13 more pounds to it.
Jeez.
But it was a great way that they personalized Dad's funeral. Not only did Dad personalize the casket, but they brought in those other pieces of memorabilia to support what Dad's hobbies and things are. So that's my closing story for you. Nothing too crazy there, but it's a great topic of personalization. So that concludes our services here today at City of First Cremation. Once again, please like, follow, subscribe, and share. And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you.
Thank you.